Yeah.
Okay. Is it still going?
Yes.
We're videotaping all of this from last week?
Yep.
Okay, let me share. Okay, for a brief roadmap, I'll be attacking my opponent's case and then leave it with my own. Pardon?
What kind of speech is this?
Okay, this is the first affirmative rebuttal. Are you ready for this?
We're ready, man.
Okay, judge ready? Opponent ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so my opponent's value and value criterion is societal transparency and then minimal governmental regulation. But then my opponent states that societal transparency is beneficial to society, but she doesn't necessarily state how in defining her value at all. It doesn't provide evidence for that. And specific evidence against this. In 2009, the United States government encountered a dilemma over the concept of transparency. And so photographs were released of misleading photos of Americans and Iraqis, which were taken as, it looked as if the Americans were abusing them. But then this led to the death of many innocent Americans. And so in this case, transparency was very detrimental, as it caused the death of many innocent people. And then my opponent's criterion, minimal governmental regulation. My opponent says this happens to protect our rights, but through my value criterion of right to privacy and protection of rights, I already accomplished this. And then my opponent's first contention, regulating online privacy would step on rights, but my opponent doesn't address my argument for this at all. And I stated, with the right to be forgotten, it's not the deletion of anything you want, it's the request to delete anything that could prove harmful to you. And I specifically stated any arguments made against the deletion of ambiguous or arbitrary information are not topical and have no effects on the affirmative's case, and my opponent didn't address that, so they agree. And so that throws out my opponent's first contention. And then my opponent says the media acts as a watchdog to our tyrannical government. But again, my opponent doesn't address the fact that we're not controlling the media with this. As I specifically stated, as my opponent even had me further define a right to request that the personal information be deleted from second parties' electronic paper records or databases. Again, my opponent doesn't address rights to be forgotten. As I state, my opponent only looks at the negative side of the rights to be forgotten and says, well, you can delete this, this, and this, but that's not what the rights to be forgotten is. My opponent's third contention, an individual's safety is undermined through the rights to be forgotten. But again, my opponent completely disregards what I said about the right to be forgotten, where I state a right to delete voluntarily submitted data would not offend the First Amendment. And again, I continue to say the EU specifies that the data people have a right to remove is, according to rating, personal data people have given out themselves and not the data anywhere else. So what this is saying is that we're only allowed to delete the data that we put out there. If someone copies it, we can't delete it. And then my opponent says, well, if they copy it and we delete it, that's wrong. But I already said we couldn't do that, so that's non-topical. On my case, my value criterion, the right to privacy, and then the protection of rights, those don't seem very well. And as I previously stated, the right to privacy and the protection of rights already accomplish what my opponent is attempting to establish, which is societal transparency and then minimal governmental regulation. But societal transparency, as I've already proven with evidence, isn't always a good thing, and the right to privacy and protection of individual rights, those balance each other out. So, so it's to always be a good thing. And then my first contention, my opponent attempts to attack and says that the right to be forgotten wouldn't protect our rights, and that it would actually step on rights, but doesn't say how or give examples or evidence. And again, as I specifically state, neither must the right to be forgotten take precedence over freedom of expression or the freedom of the media. So the right to be forgotten, as established, doesn't step over any of this. And again, my opponent says, well, if it steps over this, it's wrong, but it doesn't. And then my opponent didn't address my second contention, which is that it ought to be held as the negative and positive rights, and then it ought to be held as one of our top priorities. And so that didn't really get addressed. And then, again, the burden that I place, my opponent must provide evidence supporting the claim that the right to be forgotten is never an acceptable option. My opponent didn't address this, so I disagree, and therefore he must affirm.